Hi everybody, my name is Paul Apps and welcome back to my painting channel. Today I'm going to be painting this little fella for you in the wet sand on a lovely beach. It's all about complementaries, it's all about contrast, so let's roll that intro and let's see how we get on. Hi everybody and welcome back. I'm really looking forward to painting this little fella on the wet sand at Hastings, so let's get on without further ado. First and foremost, very quickly about the paper and stuff that I'm using, and that is Arche. It's a 10 by 14 block, and it is standard cold press, which is the medium grain. And it is 100% cotton, and it is 140 pounds. So we're going to be using a little bit of drawing gum. This is the Sepia. It's blue, so it's easy to see. Give it a nice shake up before you start. Put a little bit in the lid, and that way you don't pour a lot out and then just pour back in what you're not going to use. I'm applying it today with another technical instrument called a matchstick, and specifically honed to a greater degree. No, I'm only teasing. Yeah, just a sharpened up matchstick. You can make this flat or any shape you want it to be, but it's just one of those long family size. We're going to be using maybe a little bit of gouache for some of the highlights later on. So let's just put that to one side, put that out the way along with that. And let's look at our brushes. Now, my brushes are all Rosemary Red Dot with the exception of this one. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But these are Red Dot. I have my Rigger, which I really do love. Then I've got 3 different round brushes. Let's just put them in order. And they are a number 5 and a 10 and a 14. Now you don't have to rush off and get the same brushes, but if you've got anything close to these, that is absolutely fine. The big one will do the wash on this size paper quite happily. You could use a Hake brush, you can use a squirrel mop, but these Rosemary brushes are all synthetics, and therefore that's why I'm turning more and more to them. Now this one is a bit of a speciality. This has got slightly stronger nylon bristles, and it's called an eradicator brush, and we're going to use that in one part of this painting later on. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I've got it on hand just in case I want to. So there's the brushes. The palette is being re-wetted with some spray just to go around and get that all going, and so that we make our mixes a little easier. Okay everybody, let's get on. And the drawing first, of course. And now if you look at the image, you'll see that half of the hat is over the center line. If you can make a sort of mental note of where the center is, then you can start plotting this little chappy in the picture plane. Now, And let's get some of this nice, it's awful stuff really, to be fair. But there you go. Let's get some of this into our pot and let us just dip our matchstick in and let's start sketching away. So I'm just going to put in a few little highlights through here, just suggesting, I'm looking at the reference. I just want to protect one or two areas like this for further down the road. Just a little bit in there. I'm just going to put in, as I get less and less of this on my piece of matchstick, then I can actually leave little, much smaller little pinpricks in there, just catching that little light running through there. Taking an old toothbrush and I'm just going to dip a little bit into the end there. I should be using dish soap, I haven't done. I'm just going to splatter it around so that we've got these beautiful little specks of light further in gently, and just splatter coming right the way down to that hat there. Now this is dried off very, very nicely, and we are now set to start adding some colour. And we're going to start with that lovely wash of blue. Now that blue is really wet sand and it's radiating all that light from the sky. That's what we're seeing. And I'm going to be using this number 14 round brush. It's quite a sizable round. It's more than able to put on the wash that we need over this area on such a small paper. Now what we're going to be using is predominantly, I think, some lovely Phthalo cyanine blue. Beautiful blue. I'm going to temper it just ever so slightly. Take some of that out, add some little bit of cobalt into that. It doesn't need a lot, but we do need to make quite a bit of this wash. Now it is maybe just slightly more than weak tea. I would say sort of somewhere that, and maybe milky consistency, something of that nature. But you need to make quite a bit of this colour because, of course, we've got quite a large area to do. And don't forget, of course, it will dry lighter. Like that, take that up, take that across. Work this area at the same time, or you're going to be ending up, especially if it's a really warm day, you end up with marks you don't really want to see. So I'm working quite fast, and I am guilty, got to be said, I'm guilty of not doing what I always tell you guys to do, and that's make enough colour. I'm running out so fast. It doesn't take a lot. Come in with a bit of maybe a bit of Indian red and that lovely burnt sienna too. Just, you got to make sure that the color you put in is about the same sort of mix qualities, you know, the same sort of amount of water to each other. If you don't, you're going to end up with cauliflowers forming, and you've got to try and avoid those. When you really feel that you left well alone. But there you go, it's just shows you problems can actually happen, and that is one there. There's not a lot I can do. I might wait a little longer and just tap that edge out so it's not so hard, but I've got to be aware of that, and it could well cause me an issue further along the line. And what I'm going to just try and do is just tempt that off, just gently arresting some of that. Okay, I think that's dried off quite nicely, and we're ready to continue on. Now what I'm going to be doing now is dropping down a brush size to the number 10 round. For the most part, we're just going to be doing the initial layer on this little fellow. So what I'm going to do is, I might well use some of that again, but let's just wet the brush up, ready for action, and let's start looking at some of our colors. Now these are going to be our lighter values, that's for sure. I'm going to rub off that little bit of masking there on this little bit of the garment. Let's take that off. We don't need that in place. Take that off. Take that one off as well. Okay, let's go on then, and we're going to put in a little bit of Aureolin. First layer, and we want a fairly light layer. Not much of it either, really. Just going to put in a little bit of light over the back of this fellow, a little stronger. For the top of his t-shirt is going to be this beautiful cobalt turquoise, and I'm going to add in just a little bit of the blue. A little bit more on the Aureolin. Now for the skin. Now it is predominantly all in shadow, so let's just come in and be careful, because we are very close to our nice Aureolin color, and when they touch they are just going to bleed together. And this is just the color we used in the sand. It's the same color. I haven't actually added anything to it. Just bring that all the way through here, and I'm going to actually add a little bit of some of that lovely Ultramarine Violet just into this cool part of this leg here. done. Now let's look at our trousers, and we have got traditionally you're going to put a blue and a red in. So let's just come in with some ultramarine to begin with. Doesn't matter that it mixes with a little bit of the other stuff. We are going to come in, as I said before, with the initial colour of this lad. We're going to come in with this nice blue. There we are, a little bit of blue and a little bit of ultramarine violet. Ultramarine and ultramarine violet, and quite a weakish mix. I'm going to come up in here and suggest the light on this hat. I'm going to come in here with a lot of raw sienna and some burnt sienna, making that lovely warm mix. And I'm going to add in some of my orange, my transparent orange. Look at that, very rich colour. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to be careful now. I'm going to take this all the way into this area, up into there. Don't worry, we're going to come in with a much lighter colour. Just want to suggest some of this beautiful reflection that the lad is creating now. Just trying to look at some of these shapes on this side, make sure they extend out into the area I want them to far enough. A little bit more of the orange into that. Okay, so that is nicely dried off and we are ready to remove the masking. What I would suggest you do is always make sure that wherever your paint is sitting, cover it over. The last thing you want is to have any of this rubberized material landing in your wet palette and creating a problem with the paint for in the future. So I'm going to take this off camera, just clean off all of this, and we'll see what we've got. Okay, there we go. It's all cleaned off, and I think we've got some quite exciting little light marks left. Now, much of this has left quite hard edges. Of course, masking fluid does that. But what we can do is use some little bits of shadow in there to soften those edges on most of it. Here, I quite like this. I like the sort of scratchy marks and the little flicks we did with the toothbrush. And that just gives us a really chaotic mass of little sparkles on the wet sand behind this little fellow. So anything we do now is going to be all the concentration in this area. And we're going to work on this little fellow. We're going to add in all those little bits and pieces of shadow and detail that we need to put in. Okay, so for this final part of the painting then, I'm actually running between the two brushes. I have got the number 6 and I've also got the number 10. The reason that this one has been sharpened is so that I can do some scoring work later on, not in this painting but other paintings. So that's why it has been slightly disfigured as a brush. Never mind, it does serve a great purpose. I'm going to be using some Aureolin, and I'm going to use some of this lovely blue violet. Now see how that, as a complementary predominantly, has darkened that shade right down. We're going to use it in here. We're going to use a little bit down through here. And I'm working much more carefully now. I'm not rushing in. And I'm going to come across here, and it's predominantly a green. If you want more, just come in with a bit more of the purple colour, the violety colour, a bit more water. Not too much water, although we are not worried because the surface is dry. I'm going to come in here and just make that a little darker. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that and I'm just going to pop over with a slightly stronger layer of this. I'm going to leave some of that in light. I've lost that bit of light through there. I know that from before. But what I'm going to do now is add just a tap of magenta. See how that darkens that down? More of the green, more of the magenta. That's way too much. I always do this. Oh, there we go. Let's come back in with a bit more. Take it to one side so we're not using so much paint to make the difference. Now I'm going to put in a very muted red colour. This is quite red, but it's going to get darker still. Now I can do that. I'm going to put that in, bring that down, let that dry off before we come back in and do much more. That's the red on his trousers. Looks very vivid right now, and you'd be right in saying that, but it's going to get toned down. Clean off a bit of that, come in with some lovely ultramarine blue, and again we're going to be using a complementary. Doesn't have to be an immediate complementary. Got a very thick amount of paint there. We don't want this dark color to dry. Much lighter, so less water, more paint will help you do that. But what we're going to introduce is a little bit of orange, so let's just drop in. Now that is way too orange. You can see how that's turned to a really warm dark. We still want to keep the idea of the blue. And come in with some ultramarine violet too. Now we're coming back to a cooler grey. That may well be what we need, but by all means, as I always tell you, just to make sure that you test your colour. Is that where I want it to be? I think in this instance it's not far off, but I'm going to bring in a little bit more blue. Even a little bit more than that. Somewhere there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to come in with this dark colour. color. All right, so I think that's probably enough where that's concerned. Everything is working nicely. Everything is drying up quite nicely. And we're going to start thinking about the darks in here and the shadows in here. But while we're waiting for all this to dry, we're going to look at some of the darks outside of the figure. And we're going to look at some lovely warm dark values. Come back into our siennas, both our warm and our burnt yellow, our raw and our burnt. And I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to tap away with a few warmer values into this sand. Now I'm not going to cover over all of the light colors, but I do want to make them quite a orangey impact. Alright, so that's nice, that's done. We're going to leave that to dry up now. I'm going to be using some of this red, remixing that down a little bit more. Bit of that red, a little tap of that orange into there, but quite a bit of blue-violet colour. I think we can deal with that, and I think that comes across and we get a nice shady look, sort of well in shade on the skin. Added a little bit of water into that, just to make it flow and make it ease off. We don't want a solid black lump. Alright, that's good. Real nice, cool and warm effect on that leg. We're going to pretty much repeat the same thing on the other leg, but this time I'm going to add in a little bit more raw sienna, just a little bit, and come down here. Okay, so where are we now? Well, we're on the final part of this whole thing. So all I'm going to do now is just come in with some of these blue violet darks. So using some of that violet, bit of ultramarine into our red color. We get a cooler bluish color in here, which is a lovely set of darks that we can pop around here with this mud. Now this area is quite dark, and so I need to make sure we get that right. But it's not as cool as I think it is. Actually, I'm going to put some of that phthalo blue into that mix. Bit chancy, but I think it will work. Just small taps. You can use a rigger for this too if you feel the need. It's not a problem. I'm just trying to refine some of these shapes. So we've got a lovely contrast. That's the whole thing about this painting, is that beautiful contrast is so important. Just soften that edge there, make it a little stronger against that orangey colour, so that it makes that, albeit quite dark, quite light in appearance. Now, there are some little eddies out there, and I'm thinking, do I put those in or not? And I want to. I think it adds a little bit of distance and sort of aerial perspective to the slab. So what I'm going to try and do is just put in just a few scratchy marks like that, even paler than that, and even with more water. You can get away with it because you're not putting it in on wet surfaces. Just got to be a little bit careful. You just blend some of this out. Don't try not to disturb the colours underneath too much. It's so easily done. There we go. Be careful. Better off if you didn't need to have done that by getting it right in the first place. But one thing I'll always do, if I make a mistake, I will try and share that with you, and how I do or do not get out of it. It doesn't always work out, but there you go. I think we've got enough done. I think we've got some lights on here. I don't think I need to go in with any body colour. I am tempted to on here. You know, I'm going to go for it. All right. I wasn't going to, but I'm going to. So I'm going to take my gouache and I'm just going to dip my brush into the end, clean it off. I'm just going to add in just 1 or 2 taps of light on some of this. Am I done? I think I am done. If I don't stop now, I am going to regret it, I'm sure. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm sure there's something that I might see later on, but I think I'm going to leave it there anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to sign this one off now, a little bit darker, and put it down out the way over here, and then sign it away. Okay everybody, I do hope you enjoyed that. I had a heap of fun doing it, and as always the reference will be over on my Patreon for you to download free of charge. Do not need to be a patron to do that. Please have a look at it and have a go at it. And if you're there looking at the Patreon, why not check it out? There is so much on offer for you there. Well over 130 videos, fully narrated. Many of them are becoming more and more exclusive videos just for my patrons. There is also a lovely community page for my patrons as well, where you can do the tutorials, upload your versions, discuss it with me, ask questions, get help, and interact with each other. It is a growing community and it's a whole heap of fun. So well worth looking up and looking at the Patreon. I'd love to welcome you on board as my latest patron. That would be awesome. But if you've got this far, you've enjoyed the content, please, as always, let me ask you to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to the channel. Click the notifications tab and the bell icon. It tells you when I upload a new video, which is normally every Friday at 3 p.m. British Standard Time. So have a look at that, and I'd love to have your support on the channel. That would be awesome. And if you've got any questions about this or any other aspect of my channel, then please put them in the comment section below. I'll always read them. I always enjoy answering them as well. So I look forward to some of that. In the meantime, I'm going to stop here. Wish each and every one of you all the best. Have lots of fun painting. Have a go at this one. As I say, nip over to the Patreon and get the info and get the reference. Have a go at it. And don't forget to put it up on the Painting with Paul Apps channel over on Facebook. That doesn't cost you anything to join that either. So until the next video next Friday, take care everybody. Stay safe wherever you are. Happy painting. Enjoy what you're doing. Take care. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, my name is Paul Apps, and today, I'll get there in a minute. Hi everybody, my name is Paul Apps, and no, well, it is Paul Apps. Hi everybody, welcome back to the painting channel. No. Hi everybody, welcome back to the painting channel, and no, I've got this little fellow in the wet sand to paint for you. No. And of course contrast. So let's roll that intro and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. So again then. Oh dear. All about contrast, and it's all about complementary colour. That one. Start again then.